A little bit of the bubbly.
Oh, son of a bitch!
I'm a comedian, yeah.
Jesus!
Stone Cold E.T. will like a couple cheeseburgers.
Raging elephants!
Undertaker, you come on down!
Die, die, die.
Oh my God!
Welcome back to the Crucial Squared Circle, the most crucial wrestling podcast with Mark Franchise, Davison Sarai, and the most dangerous letter in the alphabet, T.
And of course, if you're not down with that, we got 2 words for you!
All right, welcome back to the Crucial Squared Circle. Mark Franchise joined, as always, with my lovely co-host, Davison Sarai.
Hello, Franchise.
And T is in Arugula.
Aw, he loves his lettuce.
Yeah, T's a busy man. I was supposed to say Aruba, but Arugula came out. But I know he likes salads, so it works out either way. Filling in for T today, a special guest with us, professional wrestler from IPW, one of the most successful wrestling guests we've had
successful
ever, Derek Wolfe. What up, dude?
That's right. Don't you forget it either. How you doing, Franchise? Thank you so much for having me tonight.
Fantastic, as always.
I don't get nervous, Franchise. You know me. I don't get nervous, but there's a lot of greatness at this table right now.
Oh,
it's a little daunting.
It's intimidating, isn't
I'm
it?
not gonna lie to you.
I wish you could.
That's what everybody says.
Could see the greatness emanating from this studio right now.
Smell it through the speakers.
We're going to get into Derek Wolfe's kind of backstory, his involvement with IPW. Of course, if you've seen High Stakes, Valor, Grave Danger, and Warfare, you know that he's been a part of IPW for a while. So we're going to get into the backstory of Derek Wolfe and what's coming up in the near future for IPW. Opening up the show right off the rip, let's just get into... we've been trying to stay positive.
Yeah.
We really have been.
We do our best. It's even in the face of negativity, we've really banded together to try to push the positivity, but the last 48 to 72 hours or so is just...
It's so bad.
Is that the text?
Oh, no, I showed him the Fiend belt, but with Goldberg's face.
Jesus Christ. So Mark gets a hold of me.
Can I get a replica one of those too? Like, are those going to be for sale for $6,000 too?
Yeah, $6,000.
I mean, that's not, that's pennies to me, but
that's
right,
Goldberg.
No doubt. Yeah.
That's like $12,000 for the Goldberg,
right.
If I remember correctly.
So
Mark, you hit me up the other day and you said we need to talk about this Billy Graham thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I jumped online. I could not find anything at first.
Yeah, because it was just on his Facebook. Because the funny thing is, Billy Graham is on Facebook. He's maxed out his friends. I actually messaged him. He hasn't hit me back yet because I want to see if we can actually talk to him on the show. So if he reads the message, which I'm sure eventually he will, we're going to get him on and talk to him about this because he as a headline on Facebook on Sunday, he put Vince blocks Vickie Guerrero's podcast. Now, Vickie Guerrero went on the Jericho Cruise, and that basically got her blacklisted in WWE.
It wasn't mentioned, but she's done guest commentary at least once on Dark. It may have even been twice. I can't remember for sure.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
I remember her making a lot of really sexually suggestive comments about various wrestlers. That's why I haven't forgotten. But
gotcha.
Yeah, she's had a little bit of elbow rubbing going on with AEW for a minute.
Yeah, so basically Billy Graham comes out and dude just snapped. He said, and I quote, "This scumbag bastard Vince McMahon has blocked Vickie Guerrero from using any of his so-called superstars on her podcast because she went on an AEW Chris Jericho cruise ship tour. This man has to be the single most evil human being walking the face of the earth. To deny a woman's right to make a living when her husband gave his life for this unworthy pile of dung.
Yep.
He won't let her have any of his talent to simply sit and talk on a podcast. While this coming Thursday, February 27th, he will be putting on a show in Saudi Arabia with his partner, the Saudi Crown Prince, Mohammed bin Salman, who will be paying $50 million for this one-night show, and personally ordered the murder and dismemberment of an American journalist.
Oh yeah, there's that.
The ever-greedy Vince will take $50 million soaked in his blood, but won't let Vickie Guerrero make some nickels and dimes doing a podcast. What a two-faced, selfish bastard that will burn in hell. Click on the link below to read Vickie's own words, and please forward this post to any podcast, wrestling news site, radio talk show, or anyone else that needs to be aware of the real way the WWE treats women, like Vickie Guerrero in the workplace. And he posted a picture with him, with Eddie Guerrero underneath it, expressing his love and sympathy towards his family.
So how do we think he actually felt?
Yeah, if I had to guess.
Strong words from Billy Graham. What can I point out one thing with that?
Yeah.
So at the end there, he goes, Billy Graham mentioned the way that Vince McMahon treats women. I just want to point out that it's not the way he treats women, it's the way he treats everyone, not just women in particular. There's a wrestler from West Michigan who, from this area actually, and I don't want to name names just because I happen to know them.
Yeah.
That used to be on creative for WWE, and probably people are going to know this story and who I'm talking about anyway. But he used to be on creative for WWE, and he lost his job, actually got fired. Vince fired him on the spot for so much as taking a photo.
Oh, yeah,
with,
Jimmy.
Yep.
Yeah.
With wrestlers from another promotion.
That's insane.
It really is.
We've talked about that one before. That's
Well, yeah, and that who lost their job when McMahon?
Paul London.
Yeah, Paul London, when he was
Do you
walking
remember
to
that,
the
in
limo.
that shot?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And-
All he had to do was smile, and that's the end of his job.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's insane. And really, it really makes you, and I won't get into it. I won't get into that current thought that went through my mind yet, but it is interesting to me how stories like this keep coming up. Like these random, like you're no longer a part of us. Like you've done this one thing, but then how he'll give other people or certain people a pass on things.
Yep.
And that's the issue. Yeah.
It's about who you are. I mean, something similar happened. I don't remember exactly what happened, but Titus O'Neil a couple years ago was on stage with Vince McMahon, and they were doing some kind of award where the entire Raw roster was on stage.
Yeah.
And Vince happened to walk by. Do you know what story I'm talking about?
Is it when Titus won the Father of the Year thing? Or was it actually like programming in WWE?
It wasn't programming. I mean, they were all on stage, and Vince walked by, and he gave them like a little friendly punch or something like that.
Like a way to go or something?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And Vince got irate and suspended him for like 3 months because he did that on stage. And it wasn't anything big, it was just he happened to walk by and I just kind of gave you a little buddy punch, and that was it, and guy snapped over it.
We've talked in here a lot, though, about the fact that Vince likes to use the language, and you've heard him say this, we're making movies. We're making movies here. And we've talked about, like, his approach to wrestling has gotten so bizarre, like so micromanaging, so perfectionistic. And when we finally flipped it and started looking at it, it's like, okay, let's just assume he really believes he's a director. Now all of a sudden it's like, well, yeah, that extra did a thing he wasn't supposed to.
Yeah.
He blew the shot. Get rid of him. That makes a lot more sense than his approach to wrestling at this point. Not that it makes sense, mind you.
And it's that micromanagement that comes into effect right there. It's almost obsessive and on an unhealthy level as well.
Well, and I've pointed out a few times, this is what I wish people would remember. So let's just do Titus in that moment, right?
Yeah.
So he loses work for however many months. He's somehow on the inside. Like he's barely in the ring anymore. He's barely on the air, but he keeps a paycheck, so he's in.
Yeah.
So let's assume, though, that for some reason that 3 months was unpaid, or that Vince had just fired him. Now we've got a guy who's dedicated years, if not decades of his life to this craft. All he ever wanted to do was become a wrestler, apparently. Probably dreamed of being Hulk Hogan or Booker T or whomever growing up. And all it took was a nudge for this old man to end your career.
Yeah.
That's the part. Like, it's Vince's show.
Yeah.
But every one of those people has decades, a whole lifetime building up to that moment you're seeing. And to just flush it is like...
Yeah, and we were talking about how everything goes through McMahon, and it was funny. I hadn't actually gone back and watched the footage when we were originally talking about this on a prior episode, but the other day, I did see the footage, and after watching it, I can absolutely confirm that the Triple H Booker T promo was absolutely racist.
Oh my God.
He looks at Booker T, this is when Booker T came in, and he looks at him and he up and downs him, and he says, people like you don't get to be champion.
Now, we would be able to say, well, maybe he meant something else if that was all he said. But
it was the tone and the fact that he gave him the up and down.
Well, there was more, though, because he said also in that same blip, he said something about fuzzy hair.
Nappy hair.
He said something about you should just be dancing.
Do a little dance, do your spinaroonie.
Which is code for shuck and jive.
Right, absolutely. And how Bruce Pritchard was defending and saying, well, no, no. Well, okay, yeah, that was uncalled for. Okay, but you can acknowledge that was, racially fueled.
When was
yeah,
this?
But
Was this recent?
No, this was the build up to WrestleMania 19.
Okay.
Yeah.
But WWE, WWF at that time was a lot edgier back then too. If you remember, when Vince McMahon brought back ECW as a third brand, on Sci-Fi, Vince McMahon actually made himself ECW champion, and he had a little gimmick going on that was kind of pushing boundaries on that same level a little bit, where he would wear a do-rag and he would even say racially sensitive words on television to...
Oh, yeah. He dropped the N-word that one time.
Yes, that's the
In
one
Joe
that I
Louis Arena.
Was it with
Yes,
Shelton
he was
Benjamin?
in Detroit.
Was it
It was
Shelton?
with Booker.
Oh, it was
Booker and Sharmell, his wife at the
That's
time.
right.
he said it to John Cena, and Cena's face just blanks.
Oh, and then Booker did
Yes.
that.
And
then he-
I did not just hear that.
Yeah.
That's what
Tell
it was.
me I didn't just hear that. That's right.
Yeah.
So, again, everything goes by him. So he knows everything that's, if it goes the way it's supposed to go, he knows that it's happening.
Well, I wonder, Derek, you're 100% right. He doesn't single out women. He will mistreat anybody he decides to mistreat on any given day. I wonder if Billy Graham was partially meaning, like referencing she's also a widow. Her husband sold his whole life to this industry, and it's pretty common then, if somebody does pass, that Vince helps take care of whomever after the fact.
Yeah.
So not only, I don't know, I honestly have never followed other wives of past wrestlers' stories.
Well, I think Vince wants loyalty, right?
Oh, Jesus.
I mean, that's it. He took care of Vickie when Eddie did pass away.
Yeah.
Vickie was on TV. Vickie still had an active role
Right.
in, so obviously some controversial storylines with Dolph Ziggler and others.
Well.
But she was taken care of.
She just wanted a sex
She
life.
was.
She just wanted a sex life. Dude.
And, in return, I would imagine that he just wants loyalty out of the people that are going to be on, the face of his brand.
Yeah. It's, I don't know. It's a touchy thing. And again, it goes back to the whole idea of, and if you look at just what happened with Super Showdown, again, if we're going to talk about creative, and it really is what separates WWE from anything that is going on anywhere else in the world right now, in terms of a wrestling product. Because it's not, I guess, I know the money is there, and the promise of NXT, it is promising, but I feel like, man, once you sign your name on the dotted line, your hopes and dreams of being a wrestler are at the whim of somebody else.
Yeah, now you're a superstar.
Yeah.
And we know that there's a ring and we know there's ropes, but I mean, for the casual person scrolling through TV, they're going to see people in a ring and say, okay, that's wrestling. For people who know wrestling, it's almost like WWE. This is almost like excessive, but in some ways it's like it's not even part of the same discussion. AEW is an athletic focus on wrestling. I see IEPW, it's an athletic approach to wrestling. WCW, NWA, ECW. They do that stuff, but we keep saying, Derek, what do you think of this? That wrestling has almost become a commercial for wrestling products as far as WWE goes.
My opinion is that wrestling is subjective. Sure. Wrestling is an art form. It is what you want to make it. That being said, promotions like IPW, our local promotion here in Kalamazoo, is going to be run a little bit differently than a promotion such as WWE. In IPW, the wrestlers themselves have creative freedom to do what they want, for the most part. Sure. For the most part, there's going to be some things that need to be run by certain people first, but for the most part, they have the creative freedom to do what they want, tell stories the way they want to tell them, do moves the way they want to do them, and so forth. When you're working for a company and you've signed your name on the dotted line to Vince McMahon, you've basically sold your essence to Vince, and he controls everything about you. So, or his team controls everything about you and your character. So you don't have the freedom to go out into the ring and say what you want to say. His producers are going to give you a piece of paper with what they want you to say tonight in the ring.
Do you think it's fair to say at that point somebody becomes an athletic actor?
Yes and no. I would say an actor in a sense of sometimes they give you an idea of what they want you to express in the ring, yeah. But is it any different than a football player who signed a contract to the New England Patriots? You know what I mean?
And a coach telling them, on this play, this is what you're going to do.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, like, I could be Tom Brady, and, I have the athletic ability to throw an 80-yard pass or to run 100 yards or whatever, right?
Right.
But it's not my decision as to whether I run the ball this play or whether I make the pass this play.
Okay.
Coach Belichick is going to tell me you're going to run, or whoever is going to tell me, okay, it's 4th and 1, we're going to do a quarterback sneak.
Yeah,
so they're telling me what to do, and then it's on me to go out there and do it.
Yeah, that's an interesting take.
Does that kind of make sense? I mean,
totally.
is it different in a
No, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
In hearing it that way, I would say that there are people in WWE who are handed the ball, like you're saying, and they're said, "There's go run and get a touchdown. We know you can do it." And Cena shows up, they'll let him do it. There's people who can do that.
But I think that's why we kind of look at AEW as, NXT as a completely different entity. Because you look at what's happening in there and that freedom that those guys do get, and the fact that guys like, Matt Riddle are just allowed to kind of come up with something off the top of their head, and then all of a sudden it's a t-shirt.
Yes, to an extent. I would more say AEW overall or IPW overall versus WWE overall. Yeah. So like in WWE, they're going to tell you, we need you to score a touchdown, and this is how you're going to do it. Yeah. You're going to throw a Hail Mary pass, and it's going to go to this wide receiver. Go out there and do it. AEW is going to say you need to throw a touchdown, and I don't care who you throw it to or how you do it. Just get the touchdown. And then it's on that person to get the touchdown, and they can do it however they want.
Right.
Whereas in this promotion, it's you're going to get the touchdown, and this is how you're going to get there, step by step by step.
And that's a great point, because this kind of ties into the difference of why I love AEW over WWE's main product right now. You have a guy in Darby Allin who shows up on the scene, and we're like, who the hell is this guy? And instantly he goes up against the top 3 guys in the company, and he does a phenomenal job of putting in work. And, he does, by going out there and even suffering 3 losses against the top 3 guys in this company, it elevated his persona and everything around him that makes up who he is to main event status.
Well, it was interesting because the first 3, because he didn't lose all 3, but he did fail to win, right?
Correct.
So that first match was against Cody, and that was the first time we'd seen a time limit expiration in God knows how many years, right? And we're like, wow, it's not like creative anymore, but it was the first time in a long time we'd seen it.
Yeah.
So it was a protected finish. Then he lost to Moxley, but it was a blood.
That's when he got the freaking mega DDT of doom.
The cervical destroyed.
For real.
Kiss your life goodbye DDT. Yeah. So to lose that match is not a loss.
No, absolutely.
To beat Jericho, or wait, no, I'm thinking of Jungle Boy. And Jericho fought. How did Jericho win that match? Do you remember? Was there cheating?
Against Jungle Boy?
No, against Darby.
Oh, against Darby. I know Inner Circle interfered at some point.
Yeah, so I mean,
but
he
still
hasn't
went
really
toe to toe with him. That and I had brought that up originally. That was very reminiscent of a match that 1-2-3 Kid and Bret the Hitman Hart had on Monday Night Raw, where 1-2-3 Kid actually lost the match, but 1-2-3 Kid lost the match. Bret Hart saw that his foot was on the rope, and Bret Hart ordered the match to continue, to do the right thing. And 1-2-3 Kid almost beat him for the title.
Right.
And when I was watching that match between Darby and Jericho, I'm like, man, this is so similar to that, where, you got this smaller guy who's just working his ass off and really showing that, like, holy crap, this guy could become champion right now.
Right.
And it was very believable. Again, you got to give props to Jericho for also being able to,
Oh, he can do anything he wants in the ring, but he's smart, because doing that isn't just a match. It's also booking storylines, and it's booking into the future. You're doing everything with that simple little concept of protecting both performers.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened. And that's exactly what didn't happen at Super Showdown. Because, holy crap, I think it was like 4 minutes and 13 seconds between both men's world title defenses.
There's a whole do you know the outcomes from Showdown?
I'm aware of some of them. I mean, the obvious ones with Goldberg and The Fiend.
Yeah.
I did see that match, and I have my opinions on that as well. I saw Undertaker coming back I heard about Lesnar and Ricochet, so I'm pretty up to snuff on what's going on there.
Yeah. There was one other one, too, I'm trying to remember. There were 4 of them, I thought.
There was Ricochet and Brock Lesnar.
Yep.
That was a squash.
Yeah.
There was the Fiend essentially getting squashed. There was the Undertaker, AJ. Maybe that was it. I just remember seeing like, oh my God, those are 3 like huge names being fed to the bigger stars.
Right.
We've been talking a lot lately about the how the revenue streams have really reversed, where WWE is not making a majority of their money from like domestic wrestling shows anymore. They're making their money from Saudi Arabia shows. And we've already known Saudi Arabia was stoked on having the Attitude Era old school heroes come back. So the booking for that show through that lens makes perfect sense, unfortunately.
To a certain extent. So, can the business side of Derek Wolfe step in for a second?
Without a doubt.
Very successful businessman.
You got to weigh the options here. What's going to make you more money if you're Vince McMahon? Is it to have the paycheck that comes with bringing in these 3 big names in Undertaker, and Goldberg, and Brock Lesnar? And with that, the sacrifice of basically your main person, your main wrestler, The Fiend, and everything that he's done in the past however many months it is, against guys like Seth Rollins, against guys like Daniel Bryan, and so forth, where he is just constantly kicking out of all their finishers, where he is just retaining, and then all of a sudden you have this quick match where one jackhammer is enough to put away The Fiend. That kind of buries your big guy, right?
It absolutely does.
And I know you're going to get this big payday by having Goldberg come in, but what about your merchandise sales? I mean, people aren't going to be keen to buying. I mean, they probably still will be, right? They'll still buy the Fiend's gear or merch. But if the reputability of this particular wrestler goes down, then I would imagine their merch sales are going to go down too. And profits will go down. And
again, it doesn't do you any good if you build this guy up to, and we've kind of talked about it before, like with the whole Goldberg thing. It wasn't necessarily the fact that Goldberg went undefeated and then lost to Kevin Nash. Like, that was huge. Like, oh my God, the streak's over. And Davison has even pointed out before too, is same with when Andre the Giant put Hulk Hogan over, where it was like the mythos behind Andre the Giant kind of weakened. Then now he's beatable, but it's still a great feat.
Yeah, he was still a monster,
right?
But those decades of complete untouchability were gone.
Right.
And it's the same thing here with The Fiend, right?
Right.
How many times does a guy kick out of Seth Rollins' unbeatable curb stomp and come back and beat him?
Right.
And then all of a sudden you get one jackhammer that it was kind of a jackhammer, but it wasn't really a jackhammer. It was kind of a sloppy suplex,
it was 6
right?
spears and a sloppy suplex.
Right.
I heard somebody online call it the second sloppiest thing to ever happen in Saudi Arabia.
The first one being...
Oh my God!
Yes,
the Undertaker.
Undertaker and Goldberg, where he dropped Taker on his head.
Yep.
Yeah, that was scary. But yeah, so it's the same thing, right? So you lose the mythos that's behind this supernatural, unstoppable force that is The Fiend.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I'm watching The Fiend being built up over the past 6 months or however long it's been. Going, wow, there's just nobody that's going to beat this guy.
Right.
Seth Rollins can't beat him. All your top names can't beat him.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do? In my mind, I'm thinking the only person that's going to be able to beat The Fiend is another supernatural creature itself.
Yeah.
Which would be like the demon in Finn Balor.
Right.
Something along those lines. I wasn't expecting a 56-year-old man to come in and hit a sloppy suplex and pin the Fiend. That's kind of...
We even discussed this too, it's nothing against Brock Lesnar or anything, but with the Undertaker's WrestleMania streak, it didn't do anything to Brock Lesnar to beat the Undertaker at WrestleMania. It was just him, like... It was just something for Paul Heyman to bring up for the next 6 months. Other than that, it didn't project him. Imagine if The Fiend had defeated The Undertaker.
You know what? Before you continue on, I just want to touch on that Lesnar piece, because we have touched on that a bunch of times.
Yeah.
And I agree that it didn't do anything to propel him in terms of perceived ability. Right? Like, people already knew he was a badass. They didn't hate him, though, nearly as much before as they did leaving that match. And ever since then, he's still been a beast. but people hate him 100 times
His
more than they
guts.
used to.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that helped, I guess. And of course, I'm a mean asshole, so I really enjoyed watching the crowd's faces when he beat him.
Right.
Everybody's like losing it.
Oh yeah.
But
I can picture that one fan.
that black dude with the glasses, his whole life was shattered. So anyway, I mean, I guess that was my only intervention, Mark. But sorry to interrupt.
Oh, without a doubt. No, and don't get me wrong. I completely agree with you there. And if that is your goal, is to get people to freaking be pissed off at you,
Right.
they freaking knocked it out of the park.
Same thing with Roman Reigns and Undertaker. Remember the Raw the next day when he almost got booed out of the arena for 10 minutes straight?
Yeah. It just, again, I guess I just look at it as a fan, and I look at it like, if you're going to protect the Undertaker and his legacy, you know, again, smart decision making, and WWE just doesn't. I don't know. They come up so short on a lot of things that could just improve their all around product.
Like actually having a retirement match that's legitimately a retirement match, so you don't have 4 more retirement matches after that.
I don't even know what you're referring to right now.
Woo!
You know, since we have an ultra successful business person in here today, I do
doubt.
have a question for you.
Yes.
So Mark and I and T, rest his Arugula vacationing soul, we've talked a lot about the tipping point of, okay, majority of their money seems to be coming from those overseas shows now.
Sure.
Like you touched on a minute ago, though, there's still all of this selling of product to be done. If they're going to make that $50 million off of Attitude Era people, eventually they're going to retire or die of old age.
Correct.
Now we're looking at something called the law of dwindling returns. Right?
Yes. Yep.
So if there aren't huge stars to keep making money off of once these guys have passed on, that business model dies as soon as they do. How does an ultra successful business person overcome this sort of solipsist business approach?
You keep rolling with the business approach that you've been taking from the get-go. And what I mean when I say that is these stars like Undertaker and Goldberg and Brock Lesnar are eventually going to retire, right? So that's when you build up your stars that have been kind of your stars below Brock and Goldberg, but they've been those big guys, and you have them keep returning as they get older, right? So John Cena's still going to be in the ring when he's 56. Roman Reigns is still going to be in the ring when he's 56, right? Probably not full time, but when they go to Saudi Arabia and the Saudi Arabian prince wants to pay X number of millions of dollars to see John Cena or Roman Reigns, and then there they are at 60 years old.
Do they pay for Roman Reigns? He's not the kind of big galactic star that Cena and those guys
Vince
are.
is trying to build him up to be, right?
Well, he's been trying for a very long time.
Yeah.
That's
Not
But
so
Vince is
successful.
never going to stop pushing it. That's
right.
the thing, right? Because he's still trying to be pushed as the big guy.
going to come up, too, because word has it that's the idea for
at
WrestleMania's main event again.
Yes.
And, like,
Roman Reigns against Goldberg.
Goldberg. Yeah, man.
Yikes.
Spear versus Gore.
we like trolling people on wrestling
funny.
pages. What did I say?
We set up, you popped on with a very innocuous statement. You just put, like, Roman Reigns' finisher, the Gore, is pretty okay.
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
It's pretty
pretty
okay.
okay.
It's like
It's pretty okay.
It's a spear.
I've had my
No, it's
trainer
not.
say that to me a couple times in practice. That's funny.
We just wanted to see how long it took for somebody to go, it's not a Gore, stupid, it's a spear.
Just triggered him big time. And I just sat there. I'm like,
How many comments did you get?
Oh my God, it was
a
over
lot.
20.
Yeah.
The first
people
one
were-
said,
awesome.
it's not a Gore, it's a spear. And you said, what's the difference?
Yeah, I said, what's the difference? Somebody's like, the Gore you lead with your head.
Oh, jeez.
You use the top of your head,
And I was like,
like
oh.
Ram Man.
I was like, nah.
Now, that's what Goldberg does to posts. He absolutely does a Gore when he goes into that fucking corner
Yeah.
post and splits his head open.
I think I spit some fucking asinine story.
He
in that.
gores
Is that
like-
what he does when he splits his head open on the door? too?
Exactly right. He's practicing a spear by doing a door Gore.
Oh my gosh.
That's
I think
funny.
I spit some asinine story about my great great grandfather Thaddeus Gore.
Oh, yeah, Thaddeus Gore. He invented it. So it sounds
yeah.
like we agree, though. The model would be build up the next people. These guys roll out, you roll these guys up.
That's not the business approach I would take. But yeah, I mean, that's what I would see happening if Vince continues to, man the helm of the ship and
And again,
keep running the show.
and again too, there's these rumblings about possibly selling the rights to WrestleMania to like
ESPN Plus, right?
ESPN or NBC or
I heard
one of
Fox
these.
in that discussion.
Yeah. And again, if you think about it logically, they're not going to be able to book Ricochet. Nobody knows who that amazing wrestler is, but they know who Roman Reigns is. They
Do
know him
they?
because
I don't think people do. I think that in WWE's mind, they've got him to that level. Crowds keep telling him he's not.
I mean, he's
The
not a
crowd.
Rock. He's not a Stone Cold. He's
no.
not a John Cena. Vince might push him to be that way, but he's...
that's all. I feel like that's all that he cares.
You know,
about.
the thing is, like, I have a lot of friends that are not involved in or don't know anything about pro wrestling, right?
Yeah.
I have a lot of friends that don't. And if I walk up to any of them and I say, hey, do you know who Roman Reigns is? The majority of them are probably going to say no. I would say a little less than half would probably say yes, but the majority of them are going to say no.
Yeah.
If I walk up to them and I say, do you know who The Rock is? Of
course.
Or
Yeah.
do you know who Stone Cold is? Or even at this point, because he's become a Hollywood star too, do you know who Dave Bautista is?
Oh yeah.
They're all going to say yes.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So you get that real name value, that star value versus what Roman Reigns is.
That's a tremendous metric going forward.
Yeah.
It seems very obvious, but like if you were just go to anybody on the street, find 5 people, do you know who this is? That line has to cut off. Has there been anybody after John Cena who would reach that level where people would actually know somebody's name on the street?
I don't think so.
I think Reigns is as close as it gets.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you something from a business sense. What are they? Why do we know names like John Cena? Like, why do non-wrestling fans know who John Cena is? Why do non-wrestling fans know who Stone Cold Steve Austin is? Why do non-wrestling fans know who The Rock is?
Media.
Yeah, they start hitting TV, movies,
TV or-
media,
or film.
award shows.
But are they doing things in wrestling that are different than the other guys?
They're pushed differently.
Pushed
They're built
differently?
up differently.
Let me rephrase my question. Let's look at like the feud of Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock versus a lot of the modern feuds today. Everybody knows and loves the feud of Stone Cold and The Rock, or even Stone Cold and Vince.
Sure.
And what I really love personally about those matches are the storytelling that goes into those.
Yeah, no doubt.
And the emotional connection that both wrestlers have with the crowd, and how emotionally invested everybody gets into those people, right? And they're having these WrestleMania main events, and they're not really doing any huge over-the-top moves.
Nope.
You know, Stone Cold and The Rock aren't doing Canadian Destroyers. They're not
Right.
doing shooting star presses off the top rope. You know, you might see a stunner here and you might see a rock bottom there in the people's elbow, but those aren't huge, dangerous moves, right? And when you watch a lot of today's main events, in my opinion at least, you see a lot of moves and you see a lot of over-the-top stuff, which is really cool. That's awesome, and it's super athletic, and I know I could never do half of the stuff that some of these guys do. Even some of the guys in IPW, I couldn't do half the moves that they do. But the crowd pops for it, but they don't remember who those wrestlers are.
Right.
They'll always remember who Stone Cold is. They'll always remember who The Rock is, because there's an emotional connection that these guys are establishing with the crowd that a lot of today's wrestlers are not.
Right.
Okay?
100%.
And that goes back to when we were talking about WWE. How many writers are doing all of the... How many writers does one person have to deal with? Rather than just going out there and being like, who are you? I'm Macho Man Randy Savage. Okay, why? Well, this is why. This is who I am.
But see, that's the thing. Vince eliminated the ability for people to do what Macho Man did. He
Right.
made his own name in the South. He moved into a territory, got bigger, came up, and he's already huge. Now there's the Indies, but they snatch him up, throw him into NXT, they ring him out, they turn him into a WWE product.
Right.
That's what we've said a bunch of times. People learn how to get over,
Yes.
then they take away what got
Yep.
him over and try to make him a new thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if I were running this business, if I were running WWE, that is, if I were Vince McMahon and I wanted to push guys and know that my income flow is going to continue to go for the years to come, I'm looking at this going, I have a weekly episodic television show. Every Monday I have Monday Night Raw. Every Monday I can continue to build storylines. It's not like I have to wait a month in between TV shows. It's on every single week. I'm going to build these storylines. I'm going to go back to the way that I was doing it in 2000s and the late 90s, where the big feuds are going to be built up over the course of a couple weeks. You're going to have storylines that actually build. You're going to have these wrestlers connect with the crowd, and then you're going to have the big blow-off match at the pay-per-view. And by doing that, rather than having just thrown together matches every Monday night on Raw and not letting feuds build and not letting emotional connections happen by having deep-rooted storylines, you're not going to get the fan investment that you do when you have like The Rock and Stone Cold, where these guys really care about them. And you don't have to do 5 Canadian destroyers to get over either.
Right,
You know what
exactly.
I mean?
And on top of that, too, again, if they're, like, and Davison had brought it up, too, is like taking something away. There might be something natural that comes from within somebody, but you see a lot of these promos I hear, there's no real natural characters in WWE. I feel like it's so over-scripted that it comes off as insincere in what they're trying to get across. Unbelievable at times.
It's forced.
Exactly,
Absolutely.
forced. And that's another thing why I love IPW is that it almost seems like even in present company included as well, that a lot of the best natural heels are just who they are naturally. They're letting their character, they're letting their personality come through, and they're letting their creativeness come out, and overall you're going to get a more natural feel to everything in the wrestling and in the delivery.
You know who I can think
Verbally.
of in NXT right now who fit that category, who actually can just talk and get themselves over? Ciampa, Gargano, and Cole.
Mm-hmm.
They all learned how to do it all over the country, all over the world. They're still allowed to bring their own flavor. We're scared to death that if they get called up to the main roster, it all goes away.
They're going to become a Bobby Roode. They're going to be, or Robert Roode, excuse me now,
Yeah.
or a Finn Balor, or
Right.
somebody else who just gets lost in the shuffle, right?
Right.
And when Finn went to NXT, when he went back to NXT, I was like, that's kind of messed up that they sent him down to what's considered their farm league.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when we started looking at things like, that's where you can actually have some kind of independence.
Yeah.
Because Triple H is running it completely different than McMahon is.
and
And all of a sudden, we're seeing the best version of Balor I think we've ever seen
Yeah.
right now. If you've seen
Yep.
his matches lately,
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
absolutely incredible.
And I think didn't in the most recent episode of NXT, it almost seems like Balor is now. He's one of those guys that we had a discussion about the best natural heels or the best natural faces, and how some people can, like, it's like trying to make Randy Orton a babyface. Never gonna
that's
happen.
exactly what I was thinking in my head.
Because the guy's an asshole. You know?
Exactly what I was
But
thinking.
I love the dude. I think he's freaking awesome. But his personality, you can never get him over like that. And I feel like that's the kind of thing with Finn Balor is that, he's trying to act like he's the hottest thing around, and it's like, well, he's super fucking talented.
Yeah.
So I mean, how do you turn a guy like that heel? It just doesn't.
Well, the way he did it, though, is by going after Gargano, who's
Yeah.
beloved. That made him heelish.
Yeah.
Now he's doing that, like, now that he had that fight against Gargano, he didn't make a face turn per se on NXT,
but he cut. Yeah.
but he just cut it real, and he was bragging, and it was super intense, and he was like, what else do I need to prove to you? I dominated Japan, did it.
Right.
I took over Europe, I did it. I came here, Intercontinental Champion, I did it. Universal Champion, I did it. It's real. I'd
Yeah.
be pissed too if I was him and I'm still not getting any credit. Like, hello.
Right, exactly. And
Yeah.
then they set up this match with this probable future match with Walter on NXT. Whew,
Yeah.
that's going to be a freaking
Yep.
I feel
battle.
bad. That poor Balor guy's just going to get chopped to death. His chest is there's just going to be nothing left. It's just gonna
Tough
be
though he
raw
may
bloody.
be, his chest is half the size of one of Walter's hands. So yeah, it's going to be.
But
And then-
to bring it full circle real quick though, like
Yeah.
the NXT, yes, it's still produced, but the metaphorical reigns, no pun intended, Roman Reigns, haha. The metaphorical reigns aren't there that Vince McMahon has on Raw and SmackDown and all of his other key players. And it shows through on NXT and your storylines with Balor and everybody else.
All you have to do is watch one of their shows and watch the crowd react. I mean, AEW pay-per-view crowd, NXT takeover crowd,
Yeah,
pretty darn similar.
yeah.
I don't know the last time I saw a WWE show, main roster, where there was a fifth of that heat and energy and passion and investment.
I brought it up before. Your main event, and this isn't a slant at the female competitors, your main event for a pay-per-view is a women's tag team title match, and it ends in golf claps.
Are you talking about when EO got injured
Yeah,
a little bit?
when she got the concussion. And who was it? It was
Charlotte
and
dumped her injured ass, tried to slam her through a table at the end there. And EO was
Yeah,
trying
yeah.
to protect herself the whole
But
time.
like it was the main event. It was a ladder match for the women's tag titles, and it ended in golf claps and like the crowd just dispersing. And I'm like, that's the reaction you get out of your main event.
Well, if they build it, they'd get a bigger reaction, but they don't.
Yeah, and again, I think it plays into how things are booked and how things are just kind of done over there.
Yeah.
And
I have a quick thought. I want to hear both of you. So I said, who's done it since Cena? I don't think he necessarily did it, but he came close. CM Punk? I'd say he's as close as anybody.
CM Punk isn't John Cena.
No, I'm saying
Yeah.
after Cena.
Well-
just in terms of like person on the street knowing a name kind of thing, that metric.
yeah, but then he's been pretty under the radar since.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the name is he's on Roman Reigns level, I'd say. But again, I think Cena level. But then again, WWE wouldn't allow him to be as big as he should have been. They held Punk. I'm referring to.
Of course, yeah.
Punk has he's got the benefit of having the UFC fan base knowing who he is now because of what he did. And he also got a lot of sympathy, as sad as that sounds, because of what he did in the UFC and how I hate to say it, but embarrassing his fights were.
It was pretty embarrassing. The second one especially.
Yeah.
But, he was instantly over because of a storyline that happened when it absolutely needed to happen. And side note, at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view in Chicago in 2011, thank you, I was the guy ringside that had the Chicago Hates Cena sign. That was all over TV.
Oh,
So
I'll have to go back. That's one of my
that's just my
all-time
little
favorite matches.
tidbit. If you watch the match, you will see it's not hard to find. It's right there, smack dab center,
we're watching that tonight.
Hell yeah.
We're watching
And there's
that
a big
tonight.
sign that says Chicago Hates Cena, and they zoom in on Cena as he gives Punk the, I forget if it was FU or attitude adjustment at the time, but as he gives him the finish, and my sign's like right there next to Cena's shoulder. It's
That's
great.
awesome.
It's great. So that's my little mark moment for you guys.
That's sweet.
So if you watch the pay-per-view, yes, you can see me with that sign at that time. But what happened with Punk is they gave him a storyline that needed to happen at the time that it happened, where the metaphorical fourth wall was broken down on live TV, and all of these fans just blew up about it because you've never heard wrestlers referred to in their real names, like when CM Punk referred to
The Rock is
The
Dwayne.
Rock as Dwayne and Paul, or Triple H as Paul.
Yeah.
So he's doing these like breaking the fourth wall things and calling out on all these things that fans wanted to see that Vince would never do. And then he finishes his promo by saying WWE will be better off when Vince McMahon is dead. Yep. And the crowd loses it. And so just by having that 1 minute and a half long promo, the guy is over in the history books for the rest of time, right? Yep. That could have happened to anybody if they were given the opportunity to do so.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I don't want to get punched by a professional wrestler, but I take major objection to that.
So what's your thoughts?
Well, you got to think the delivery was sardonic. It was legitimately pissed. He's super linguistically skilled. He's been all over the world and country already, so he's like all seasoned for it. They could have put anybody. Well, I guess this goes back to what we were just saying. They could have grabbed whomever.
I mean, if they gave Miz the opportunity to sit down and do it.
Absolutely not.
No?
No way. And I think he's a talented
If he
guy.
was in the same storylines that were building up to that point, too?
I think
No?
a lot of that has to do with CM Punk's upbringing and his life in general. Just being around an abusive father, being straight edge, having that chip that he had on his shoulder of I'm better than you. I'm better than you because I'm straight edge. I'm better than you because I've actually fought for everything. Davison.
I'm going to interrupt you for a second. He's not better than Derek Wolfe.
Well, I mean, clearly. That goes without saying.
I love
You
Wolfe.
can finish. I give
didn't
you
s-
permission.
I
Thank you.
didn't say it. I wouldn't say it.
But that promo that we had brought up a couple weeks ago with Raven about how CM Punk gets in Raven's face and he's like, you have literally been gift wrapped in everything that I've been scrapping and fighting for in this industry, and you've pissed it all away on drugs and booze, and I hate you for that. Just that very natural, and Raven's kind of probably looking at him like, Jesus, dude. But it was
it was
legit.
real. Yeah.
He was legit, and he was like, okay, you want me to deliver this? I'm going to be real with you.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest with you about this. And I think a lot of that had to do with just knowing who he is. So yeah, in a sense, I think you could have thrown somebody in that spot, and that could have been a scripted storyline. But I think just the fact that there was a lot of real life behind that
Sure.
promo.
Did you pick The Miz just out of thin air, or is Miz an intentional choice? there?
Miz was an intentional choice. Just I was running through the roster at the time in my head of someone else who was a good heel, who has good vernacular on the microphone, that I could see stand side by side with Punk, and the Miz is who came into mind at that time.
Yeah.
Miz is one of those natural heels, in my opinion.
Yeah,
he does
yeah.
okay, when they put him in a babyface role, but he is a natural heel, and he's darn good at it.
Yeah,
You know what I will say? When Daniel Bryan started poking at him hard on that reality talk show, it was when Renee
Talking
was
smack.
talking smack for
Yeah.
a little while. That's when the Miz blew his fucking mind.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
a great promo, by the way.
Daniel Bryan was just ragging him, and he was like, "Yo, man, you're a shitty wrestler. You wrestle soft. The reason you never get hurt is because you don't do anything. You're embarrassing." I mean, he went hard.
Yeah.
And when the Miz came out the next time, he was frothing, red face,
Yeah.
like.
I remember
"I
him
am
slamming the
dedicated."
Intercontinental title down on the table.
Oh yeah, he was.
It was good.
Pissed. But see, that was my favorite moment of his, and that's when he voiced it. All anybody wants to talk about is my goddamn real world. All they want to talk about is me being a reality star. All they want to talk about is this. He was pissed in that moment. He deserved to be.
There were a lot of good, just a real quick anecdote. I don't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry.
There were a lot of great promos in the history of Talking Smack. A lot. Miz obviously had one of the best, but there were a lot. And this goes back to what we were just talking about, because that was a show, supposedly, that wasn't produced.
Right.
And they had a little bit more free reign.
Yeah.
And that's when their personalities and characters really get to show through, and you do develop that emotional connection. Continue. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I can honestly say that I saw the crowd's response to Miz change right in that window of time. And I don't know if all of them saw that promo, but I think he finally broke through to a new level of intensity. And it had to happen because he had a real stomach full of fucking toxic nonsense from all those years. And I would say Punk did the same. I mean, just like you, Derek, I'm in that building, I'm watching you wrestle, and I'm thinking, how does he do this and not lose his goddamn mind? Like, he's obviously super superior to everybody here.
Right.
Skill set is through the roof. If he doesn't make $1 million in the next 6 months, he's probably going to be frustrated.
He's VIP hanging out in GA, you know?
Right. So now imagine...
You got to remember, I don't do this for the money. I don't need the money. Obviously Terry pays me to come out and have these matches. But I do it because, quite frankly, I just like to beat people up.
Yeah. Well,
And Zach's next on my radar. He has an ass kicking coming, and that's something that's been building for quite a while, and we can get to that in a little bit. But again, like I said, I don't do this for the money. I do it because I enjoy it. I just like to hurt people. That's why I'm
Didn't I
here.
say those exact words when we were doing commentary? I said, this man doesn't need to be here. He wants to be.
That's right.
Right. That's what sets IPW apart from anything that's going on really in the state of Michigan, is everybody wants to be there. And you can tell that in the product. Every match is 5 stars. Every single match that I've seen so far. It's just fantastic.
5 stars.
The talent that comes out. And again, we're IPW is the only one that's really representing this side of the state. I know there's Mr. Chainsaw in Kalkaska, but that's, we're talking about 2.5 hours north of us. So, it's definitely something, if you haven't witnessed it before, come out, because we're gonna get into that into a little bit. We want to roll into our predictions for AEW Revolution that's going down, which will be tonight when you're hearing this podcast. This is exciting. This is AEW does quarterly pay-per-views to start off with, which is I think it's pretty smart business move to start off with.
Every single match here has at least a couple weeks build, and even the one with Pac and Orange Cassidy, we already know that story. It may as well have been built for months, but
yeah, absolutely.
Just curious, the business guy in me, do you guys know how much AEW charges for their pay-per-views?
Yeah, $50.
50. Yeah.
It's a lot of lost revenue, too, because if you remember back in the day, WWE used to charge $50 or $60 for their pay-per-views, and then they switched to network, which is $10.
Yeah,
Right.
Absolutely.
No, we've spent a lot of time talking about that, and some people were saying initially, when those pay-per-views came out and they were so consistently better than any main roster stuff, take that $50 times it by 4, there's $200. 10 times 12 is $120 for the network. We get way more than double the enjoyment out of those pay-per-views than we do from that friggin' network.
That's what I'm saying.
It's worth that money.
$10 a month, and we watch a WWE event, and we go, there's like a handful of things. This AEW event tomorrow, the whole thing is super interesting, because you've got, let's start off with the tag match. So you got SoCal Uncensored, Scorpio Sky and Frankie Kazarian versus the Dark Order of Evil Uno and Stu Grayson. Now,
That's not all we're going to see, I guarantee you.
I'm going to go out, I got a gut feeling.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
I really feel and they're probably trolling the shit out of us.
Of course.
But my heart wants to see Matt Hardy as the ultimate operator of Dark Order.
Yeah.
They've been teasing it at 3:01. They AEW posted binary, which said join Dark Order, and 3:01 is the date when Matt Hardy's contract comes to an end.
Which is the day after tonight.
Yeah. It's man, I just want to see that guy be able to utilize the fact that and we've mentioned this before, the fact that he came up with the best character either of the Hardy Boys have ever come up with. And Jeff's not really a character. Jeff's just kind of a person.
Yeah.
And he's evolved his style.
He's the enigmatic, whatever the hell, man.
Charismatic
enigma.
There it is. Sorry about that.
I love Jeff Hardy, don't get me wrong, but when I first saw the Matt Hardy stuff, I was like, what the hell is going on?
You're talking the broken stuff?
Yeah, but when I actually started to dive into it and see what's going on, I'm like, this is frigging amazing. It was so funny and just like creative and different. It was just him being, hey, this is who I am.
It would be a perfect fit for that group only because of the weird contract stuff. Like it's one day off. He wouldn't be able to show up. You know what I mean? Vince would press his ass on one day on that contract.
Oh,
yeah. Let Vickie Guerrero have, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and we were discussing this too because, and I would love to see, and I think this would be huge, especially for Dynamite. I would love to see Matt Hardy come in as the ruler of Dark Order. But I also agree with your sentiment too, which I would love to see Matt Hardy being like the kind of guy who would be like, attack! But he doesn't actually wrestle until like MJF. He very seldomly wrestles.
Right.
He just runs his mouth. I would love to see Matt Hardy run Dark Order, but very seldomly wrestle because it's nothing against his in-ring talents. He's a talented guy, but that character, you don't even need to at that point.
Yeah, no, he's super talented for sure, but if you drop him into that tank with the way those guys go, it is going to show a major speed difference, moveset difference, etc.
Yeah.
And for him to have the skill on the mic he has and to run that group, I think it would take away from the overall appeal if he were to actually wrestle. I like him as a don't touch me chicken shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like ultimate leader, my hands are too clean for you dirty people type.
Yeah. I think Dark Order is going to take the win ultimately with a Matt Hardy reveal. I would hope.
You know how I love Evil Uno. I mean, it's obviously Gorilla Monsoon in Witness Relocation. I mean, obviously.
Easily.
So I can't go against the Gorilla. It's got to be Dark Order for me.
Would you be serious? So yeah, we'll see.
Any opinions on that one or no?
Honestly, Derek Wolfe is too busy running his industries to know what's really going on in AEW right now.
Makes sense. I'd like to see that.
We had a run-in with Orange Cassidy with Pac this past week on Dynamite. Pac gave him a low blow to the nards. Orange Cassidy felt both pieces of the freshly squeezed Nesmans as he lay on the ground. I think he's going to get some payback for Pac, but ultimately I think he's going to take him down. It all depends, though. If he actually tries, I could see him pulling out the victory.
You got two very different clashes of styles in this one.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, I'm so busy in my businesses. Right. It is. But I do happen to know these two individuals, and I know how they are as wrestlers. Pac is shredded. The guy looks like $1 million. I mean, he doesn't have $1 million. I have $1 million, but he looks like $1 million. He's got an intensity level like nobody else I've seen. And you've got Orange Cassidy, who intensity level like no one else I've ever seen either on the opposite side of the spectrum.
Right. No doubt.
In my opinion, this is a no-brainer. This is going to go to Pac all the way.
Now, I heard from some of my people that the intensity we were just talking about with Pac, there's at least 5 times that in the void that exists in each of Orange Cassidy's pants pockets.
That's wild.
May or may not be pathways into 4th, 5th, and further dimensions.
We're going to have to check those sources and try to figure out the validity of those claims, because I think we'd be on the verge of seeing something we've never seen before.
No, I mean, speak for yourself. Now, I've never known Pac to have much of a sense of humor. I don't know him anyway, but based on what I've seen and heard. I personally think it would be absolutely amazing if Orange Cassidy found a way to win this match. I will point out that as much as everybody loves him and the crowd has absolutely fallen in love with him, this will be his first match.
Yeah, this is his first singles match.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen an Orange Cassidy match,
there's not much to it.
Oh, I'm respecting you. I am absolutely respecting you, sir. Opinions vary. Views might be right, but they vary.
Well, we'll see what happens with that one. Darby Allin, Sammy Guevara. It's really hard to say that Darby Allin isn't going to take this victory.
Yeah.
Because I truly believe he is. But with the bitch-ass schematics of the Inner Circle, I can totally see somebody getting involved. Maybe Santana and Ortiz getting involved in some fashion. And I think Sammy Guevara is going to actually take the match in an upset fashion. Well, not so much of an upset, but I think Inner Circle is going to get involved somehow.
Yeah. It would upset the crowd if it goes that way.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah.
I think Sammy's an interesting character. I'm always surprised by his in-ring talent. Not because I have a low opinion, but I just haven't followed up on him all that much aside from AEW.
Yeah.
He hasn't won a singles match this whole run in that company so far. And
yeah.
And it doesn't seem to matter because he's over with the group. His run-ins are good. He does that really cool commercial break thing with the signs. He's getting himself over. I don't know that he has to win. Darby doesn't have to win either, but I've said before, I think he's on a trajectory towards that title.
Yeah.
Maybe not sooner, but probably later. And him defeating Sammy with shenanigans would just add even more to his lore as the undersized guy who can do it all. So I'm going to say Darby personally.
Word. Another guy who hasn't even wrestled in AEW, again, another first, Jake Hager. Jake Hager. Versus Dustin Rhodes. I think it's pretty clear and cut. Jake's going to get the bone.
Jake's a former world champion, isn't he?
He is, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
did you get an opportunity to see any of that title run or no?
Yeah, I did.
What'd you think?
Well, like from back in the day, right?
Yeah, because he had been Money in the Bank and he won from Mysterio, I think.
I think that was a individual who could have done many more things, but had reins that were being held back with him.
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of opportunity in this wrestler, but I also think at this point in his career, he needs to make a decision as to whether he's going to be a wrestler or whether he's going to be an MMA fighter.
Yeah.
And he's successful in both, don't get me wrong, but he needs to pull the trigger on one or the other if he really wants to be a breakout star in either business.
Well, I mean, successful compared to normal successful, not Derek Wolfe successful.
Correct.
That's not.
He already has a more successful MMA career than some former wrestlers we know.
Yeah.
That's not you. It's certain punk man.
You know.
Phil Brooks. 0-2.
No, I do remember that because he did Jack Hager because he beat Mark Henry for that world title, if I remember correct, right?
I couldn't remember. I thought maybe it was Mysterio. I can't remember for sure.
I thought it was Mark Henry.
Maybe
I'm wrong.
I know Daniel Bryan beat Mark Henry with his run-in.
Maybe I'm wrong.
You might be. You're usually right. I mean, look at your bank
I'm always
account.
right.
Well, sorry about that. Yeah. My hope is that Jack Hager, his name's Jake Hager, for God's sake, has learned a little bit about releasing the demon within while doing actual MMA. He just seemed like too pent up or something when he was in WWE. I agree. He has more to give. I'm hoping maybe he taps that now. I think he wins personally just because it is his debut.
Yeah.
And if he's going to be the monster of that group, and he is, you lose some monstrosity losing your first match.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, so, it's again with the way Inner Circle runs. Yeah, I could see some shiftiness in that one.
Isn't it great how much the crowd has fallen in love with Dustin Rhodes all over again?
Oh yeah, it's insane.
Man.
But I'm glad that he finally has a character. Like, you know, he embraces the fact that Goldust, you know, is probably what he's most recognized for.
Oh, absolutely.
So of course he's gonna his style now is influenced with the paint and everything. But I'm glad he found him. He can just be him. He found his style. He doesn't have to be a character. He's happy. He's with his brother. You know, they're, yeah.
Yeah, it's good to see. It's hard to believe he's 50.
I know, that's insane.
I mean, I've never really seen him out of that big latex suit and makeup or whatnot. Maybe he looks like 50. I don't know, but
he's also
wrestles,
wrestled. He's also wrestled in 5 different decades, which I think is mind-boggling.
God.
80s, 90s, 2010s, and now 20s.
That is crazy.
Tremendous accomplishment.
Good Lord.
AEW Women's World Championship match. This is interesting because Nyla Rose, made history just a couple of weeks ago. But I honestly feel like, Statlander has got a lot going for her. The only thing is, Statlander's got the flu.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Is it the Corona flu or is it just the Mexican beer flu?
No, it's just the flu. She was supposed to be at a show, I think, last night. It was an independent show, and she wasn't able to make it because of the flu. And obviously, she's got the match coming up tomorrow. I don't know how much that's going to affect the title match. I would like to see her take the championship and form some kind of... I would like to see her take the belt off of Nyla Rose to set up a feud between the two.
Yeah.
Which is something we haven't seen much of in AEW. You had the Nightmare Collective, which is now disbanded.
Yeah.
After Awesome Kong is doing...
she went back to Glow.
Yeah,
she's
going back to Glow.
But, I mean, even before that, that was, I think, the final reason to just pull the plug on it.
Yeah.
But they were doing run-ins and things for probably 5-6 weeks in a row.
Yeah. And
they were doing that thing with the hair, and it had to lead somewhere. It just never paid off. They never found that person to pay it off with.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I hope they just have, I hope this sets something up, because between Britt Baker, Nyla Rose, and Chris Statlander, which I would like to see some involvement with them in the women's title race, or even Rio as well. A huge underdog, but a phenomenal wrestler. She's been doing it for freaking since she was 2.
Well, seriously, I think 9 or 10.
Yeah.
So here's my thing with Nyla Rose. Everybody knows that she's the native beast. She's the powerful woman, etc. She's the first trans athlete to win a wrestling title, which is cool. Mm-hmm. When she cut that promo, though, on this last Dynamite, that was the first time I'd seen her really just go buck on the mic. And she was pissed and mean and spooky to people. We've just seen the first glimpse of that character.
Yeah.
I love Statlander. I think she's a fantastic athlete.
Right.
I think if they do more with her personality and character, she's going to kill. I don't think it's remotely timed because Nyla just got started.
Yeah, that's true.
Real quick, I've wrestled with the flu before. You said Chris has the flu, correct?
Yeah, I believe so.
I've wrestled with it before. I actually had my best match when I had 103.5 degree fever.
Wow.
I wrestled Nolan Edwards in XICW. It was about a year ago. And what I want to say is it's amazing what adrenaline rush and the feel of the crowd and the noise of the crowd and just the feel of being inside the ring can do to your body.
Yeah.
And you forget that you're sick. For those 10 minutes or 15 minutes, however long it is,
your
body forgets.
Adrenaline I don't know how is crazy.
It really is. And I don't know how to put it into words other than your body just forgets that you have any kind of ailment. And I performed, like I said, at my peak when I had the flu. So I wouldn't write her out just because of that.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think I would kind of agree with what Davison was saying too, is the fact that Nyla Rose just became the champion. To drop the title really quick would be a little suspicious.
Yeah. Well, also there's been that kind of breaking thing the last handful of days because Jericho had her on Talk is Jericho.
Yeah, yeah.
And I've read some interesting stuff coming out of that. I saw a ton of Facebook posts today from friends of mine.
Yeah.
Who were sharing all these articles from LGBTQ. What's that news site? It's like LGBTQ National or something like that. Yeah, yeah. And all these people were like, move over. LGBTQ people have a new champion. And it was all about Jericho.
Yeah.
And he's openly admitting, I'm not going to pretend I knew anything about any of the struggles that trans people have to go through, any of the thing that got here, the medical, any of it.
Yeah.
After that talk with Nyla, I am 100% in support. We need allies. I'm here for it. And then I saw a bunch of screenshots of people lighting him up in his own comments, on Twitter. How can you do this? Why are you using those pronouns? And he was giving him the fucking treatment. Listen, jabroni, really standing up.
Yeah.
So for her to lose the title wouldn't just be her losing the title.
Right,
You know
exactly.
What I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought that was awesome for Jericho to come out with that. It's pretty great.
I think I saw that. I think I saw one of the articles that you were talking about. Did you post it on Facebook?
No, I didn't have to bother. There were 1,000 other people sharing it.
Right. I just couldn't remember where I'd seen it from. But
I was going to ask Derek, though, When you did your match with 112 temperature, which is absolutely amazing, by the way. Did you see those medical
words
records?
in my mouth there.
Well, I thought you were being generous, and I thought I'd seen medical records that said 112. I could have been incorrect. I just thought that was a detriment, but I don't know what I'm talking about.
You're fine. Continue.
When you wrestled that match with 115 degree temperature, what was the back end like for you? Did you have to?
What do you mean back end?
The next day or the next?
Miserable. So I actually I shared a car with a student and Jeff King, who is another Michigan wrestler. We rode to the XICW show together because we live pretty close to each other. One of my properties is close to Jeff King because I have one in Grand Rapids and I have one in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Right.
So we rode down to XI together, and I was pretty doped up on ibuprofen and all that good stuff to help me get through the match. After it was over, legitimately, like for real, I couldn't stand up. I couldn't walk. I hadn't had anything to eat that day because I was afraid if I would eat anything that I would have an incident in the ring in my pants, and I didn't want that to happen.
Call that one the CM poo-poo.
Correct. That's actually what I was thinking. Like when you take antibiotics, you shit your pants. That's just what happens.
The CM dump.
Yes. Take another Z-Pack, punk. You'll be all right. But no, seriously, like I was having bathroom issues, so I didn't want to eat. I had nothing to eat that day. I drank like a little like vitamin pick-me-up powder thing that kind of helped me feel a little bit better. But up until time when I got to Gorilla, I felt just like death. And as soon as my music hit and I walked out, again, my body just forgot. Yeah. And then when I got to the back, I just collapsed and I couldn't stand up. I had to have friends help. Legitimately, I had to have my friends in the locker room help me to my car. And Jeff King had to make the drive home, which he wasn't a fan of because Jeff never likes driving. He likes to have a celebratory beer after his matches.
Oh, yeah.
So I took away his celebratory beer. So he was a little bummed about that. Uh-huh. And he likes to stop at White Castle, too. So, Jeff, if you're listening, many adventures that we've had, I apologize for calling him out. But I told him we couldn't stop at White Castle because I didn't think I was going to make it to the bathroom. It was a big thing. So the next few days were very miserable until I was able to get over the flu. But while you're in the ring, you forget about it.
To be fair, I wouldn't expect a man of your debonair and class and finances to enjoy a small burger from White Castle.
I would never eat those grease things.
I would absolutely expect Jeff King to eat White Castle.
Oh yeah, no, he could be the spokesperson, no doubt.
He should be on the commercial, like. I can't even do that voice,
his
man.
old-timer voice. Love you, Jeff, if you're listening.
Dude, best.
Jeff King's a fucking man.
Jeff's on. He's got a big match coming up at GCW on the east side of the state here pretty soon.
Yeah, who's going up against? He's going up against.
I saw him. He was up against. I saw it on Facebook earlier. GCW actually posted it just a couple hours ago. I will tell you. It is Jeff King versus maybe
White Castle.
Wait.
That'll be the car ride home.
Yeah.
That'll be the car ride home.
Last man standing, no doubt. The case.
Jesus. It's like a fart in a car competition. Like,
My
who
God.
can survive?
I saw a video of
Jeff King versus Jimmy Lloyd. Not to cut you off. Sorry.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, that's gonna be a huge matchup. Jeff King just got put through a freaking sheet of glass by MM3 last weekend. Got glass in his ass.
You told me about
his entire freaking sweat socks were covered, just drenched in blood
everywhere. That was a really cool spot. I saw a video.
Oh my
It was
gosh,
good.
what a beast!
It was very good.
But yeah, it's really intense the things that guy puts himself through. Going back to AEW predictions, this one's going to be interesting, and I'll be honest with you. I'll tell you who I think is going to win. But other than the victory, I don't know how or what is going to go down. But I know something's going to go down. I just don't know what.
I know your gut was telling you something about Omega's life choices that night.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm going to say F the gut and just go with what my mind is telling me, that the Young Bucks are going to take the tag titles.
Derek, just so there aren't any inside, and by the way, I agree with you. Not with Mark. I'm agreeing with Derek.
I'm shaking my head at Mark's comment.
No, we're both saying no.
Yes.
Just so you know, one of my favorite pastimes on the podcast is talking shit about Mark's gut reactions. He's got about an 0-27 record.
He's got a losing record on that one, huh?
Opinions are top notch. Gut responses, I'm not
So
so
whatever
sure.
he
about.
says, go against it. No, honestly though, I don't see the Young Bucks standing a chance against the likes of Kenny Omega and Adam Page.
It doesn't make. That's why I said something's gonna happen. I just don't know what. I feel like the Young Bucks could take the tag titles because I feel like, again, they've made that push. They lost the tag match. They lost the first one, and
Like technically they buried themselves. That's what everybody was saying. Like, why did they put themselves so low on the pecking order? Are you talking about like the inception of AEW?
yeah. And I don't know. Like, I don't know if it'll be. Like I said, it's such a unique situation. I don't know if this has ever happened before in the history of wrestling where a tag match, one half of the tag team members is friends and partners with the team they're going up against.
Well, I mean, just at high stakes, we had members of DTA going against one another with the Grey Wolves there.
Yeah, that's true.
Although one could argue they weren't necessarily going against one another. They seemed awfully in defense of the titles within the group, but yeah.
Right. It's just an interesting situation. I don't know what the heck is going to happen.
I have to defer to the storyline. We're just getting the opening morsels of what the hell is going on with Adam, borderline alcoholic Page right now.
Yeah.
With his drinking thing. You had an interesting theory. I'd love to see you bounce off of Mr. Derek Wolfe while he's here about Kenny Omega's possible options. You said you asked if we thought it might be possible that he could go dark with Hangman.
Yeah.
And go in that direction. I've been thinking about it since you said it. I still don't think it's gonna happen, but I'm curious about what your reasoning was for thinking it might.
Only because I think back of like the big turns in wrestling history, and Omega has just got such a, I want to say pure personality in the ring, but how he's been billed in AEW so far is that he's freaking Kenny Omega. Everybody knows his accomplishments, but he comes in and he's just very neutral.
He's kind of like white meat. We were just talking about how Cody
Yeah.
might be the only white meat face, but
Yeah.
no, Omega totally is right now too.
Because he doesn't talk a lot, and he doesn't really need to because he does the talking with his body.
Right.
But everybody appreciates his talents. And I guess the reason that I originally suggested that maybe he would turn on the Bucks is that, and you know, and like I said, I'm kind of with you on my own statement. I don't think it's going to happen, but that was my original thing. Is I was like, man, what if he freaking turns around at the end of the match and goes to hug him, and then just starts messing him up with Hangman Page?
It would probably be the last thing I would expect out of that, because like the Bucks could do it because they're the Bucks. You know,
Right.
they turn on
And that
everybody
would-
eventually.
Again, that would invoke even more sympathy towards the Bucks, and then give them a reason to go after the tag
Right.
titles against them as heels. But again, it's just as a fan, I wonder, man, when's Omega going to go for the world title? Because you would think,
Now that I'm thinking about it, so remember when they announced AEW was going to happen as a company?
yeah,
And the first thing they said was the initial title was going to be between Hangman Page and Pac.
yeah,
And we're like, oh, well, there's their main event that they're looking at.
Yeah.
And Hangman had all of that steam coming from Japan, where he hadn't been a top guy, but it was like he was young, he's super talented, he's going to be a top guy.
Right.
So it seemed like they wanted him to be that guy, and it just wasn't time. Like he wasn't ready for it.
uh-huh.
This angle happening right now is a tag team thing, but if you think about it, it's kind of Hangman's angle. He's the one that's going through a weird character evolution right now. The rest of them are kind of static.
Yeah.
He's the one doing this stuff. So I don't know. I wonder if this is part of a way of kind of going back and saying our first pass with Hangman didn't get him where we want him.
Yeah.
Let's do this thing. He's with three of the best people in the company. He
Yeah.
seems to be a focal point. You know, I don't know. But that's part of the reason I think that his team takes it, because he's the one being pushed in that way right now.
Right, exactly. Again, too, who knows? At the end of the match, Hangman could be the one that turns and like lets loose and just embraces the elite.
Yeah.
It's very reminiscent to me, in my opinion. Just what I instantly think about is Seth Rollins in the Shield turn.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
It's very reminiscent of that. And if they were going to set up something similar to it, tomorrow would be the time to do it.
it's going to be interesting. That's probably the one I'm most excited for, just to see, other than the whole Dark Order thing.
I'm excited. The whole card. So
And
good.
moving on, MJF versus Cody. This is something they built up since for 3 months, actually. It's a
This was
3-month
going on
build-up.
before AEW hit the air, for God's sake.
Right, exactly. Because
Yeah.
MJF has always been just kind of hot shot, wannabe Derek Wolf
That's
kind
you
of
took the
mentality.
words right out of my mouth.
You know,
Yeah, I wasn't
So-
gonna say it because I didn't want to
I
compare
was
you
thinking
two.
about it. I was just waiting until we got to this one.
I didn't want to insult. I didn't want to insult you if you have a lower opinion of one MJF because I mean, hello, there's no comparison to
like
be
you
made.
said, it's a Derek Wolfe wannabe. But I think because of his attitude and his swagger and everything that he brings, he's going to go over on Cody on this one.
It seems like that would probably be the right thing to do. And then you got the powerhouse of Wardlow.
Wardlow.
Yeah, it just seems that's, again, you got to build up, and Cody seems to, he's going to try to get there. But, yeah, my personal opinion, MJF.
I think, Derek, you might get a kick out of this. So we were talking about kind of our inceptions of being wrestling fans.
Yep.
I was really young. I was like 7 when I got into it. I had an older cousin who was like 20 years older than me. And when Macho Man Savage made his initial face turn to come help Hogan way back when, I was a kid and I'm all excited, like, oh, see, Hulkamania. My cousin's dumbass ruined wrestling for me forever and was like, no. Savage is the next champion. This is his big turn. And ever since then, I can't just see wrestling and like...
No, you look past and
see
you
all
look
the-
deeper. Yep,
exactly.
and what's the next 3 turns that are going to happen.
It's not that I want to. It was just thrust upon me.
That's how your
as-
mind thinks.
That's how it works now. So, kayfabe-wise, obviously I would love to see Cody get payback here.
Yeah.
But also I know how wrestling works, and there's so much mileage left in this thing.
Yeah.
If Cody wins, it's a blow-off. That's not going to
Right,
happen.
exactly. They can take it to a lot more places.
I mean, they're really pushing MJF as being that asshole, really bad. Like, I have friends who also went on the Jericho cruise. I didn't need to go on the Jericho cruise because...
You have your own damn shit.
Yeah,
That's
you have
right.
your... yeah.
I own the cruise line. But when they went up, like, MJF there was a time he was supposed to be doing autographs, and only like every third person in line actually got an autograph out of him. Like, he made them work to get an autograph.
Yeah.
And people were getting belittled, and I mean, he was a heel. Like, he was a heel. It was great. My friends weren't able to get one. But my point to all this is, like, they are really pushing him, and not just on TV, but in everything he does. He's being built up to be that big asshole heel that Derek Wolfe is for IPW, and I really see them, if they want to continue to build him, he needs to go over on Cody.
I think this could also be an interesting opportunity. Franchise, we've said there are a handful of former WWE talents who are getting out of contracts. We just said Hardy's not likely to appear because of his ending the next day.
Yeah.
What about Harper? When did he get free?
That's
Is he
what
free?
I was. That's actually kind of what I'm glad you brought that up too, because I was thinking he's done.
Or Brody Lee, I guess. Or
Yeah,
back to
I
Brody
think
Lee.
it was like after, it was either Wednesday or yesterday or tonight.
I'm not thinking him for Dark Order. What about him coming out and joining an MJF stable?
That's almost what I'm thinking. Well, and that's what's interesting too, because we were even talking about maybe even the inner circle, but then again, you've already got the big powerhouse guy in Jake Hager.
Yeah.
I could definitely see Luke Harper coming out and doing something. I mean, he was hanging out with Sammy Guevara a couple of weeks ago at a hockey game. You gotta know that he's showing up in some fashion. And if he shows up to help MJF, and MJF's got Wardlow and Harper with him, holy crap.
Wouldn't that just make the most sense, though, that Big Mouth MJF's going around? And by the way, he's not a little dude. He's
No.
pretty blown up now. But for him to show up and just run his mouth and now have a growing gaggle of like 7-foot monsters around, just more and more people he can talk shit behind.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to happen, but I would like to see that. But
Yeah.
one way or the other, I do think MJF comes out of this, or pulls some chicken shit type stuff, losing by disqualification or count out, and people are still pissed that Cody did not get his hands on him.
Yeah, that I can very much see that. World Championship.
What's your gut tell you?
It doesn't matter what my gut tells me. Again, kind of alluding to what we just talked about, Luke Harper, also a very open end because you're talking about what ifs.
Yeah.
That's another variable that plays into that. If Luke Harper comes in, who is he going to be? He's not going to be a WWE Luke Harper.
No.
Who is he outside of WWE in former
This is where you got to go
federations?
backwards to Brody Lee.
Yeah.
And honestly, he came into NXT kind of almost as Brody Lee when he was in the Wyatt family.
Yeah.
He was still grimy with the dirty white wife beater and what have
Yeah.
you. It's like he just went from being kind of a poor, dirty guy and a wife beater to, well, I guess I'll just join the swamp cult since they dress like me.
Right.
And then eventually took it away. I could see him just kind of returning to that. T and I had said in the past it might be interesting for Moxley to finally get a friend.
Yeah.
And wouldn't it make sense for he and Harper to be these two like raw-boned?
And that's what I'm thinking with Jericho. You got to imagine the Inner Circle is going to come out at some point. How impactful it would be to have someone like Harper come out and come to Moxley's aid. Moxley ultimately gets the big win over Jericho. That was my original prediction.
Yeah, I remember you predicting Moxley. I just can't. I'm not ready. I think Jericho holds on to it for a while longer.
They're keeping the belt on Jericho.
Yeah. Do you think so, or did you pay to get some inside information?
I paid it off, clearly. No, my opinion says that Chris will continue to hold the belt.
What do you think about Darby Allin being the one to take it from him in a handful of months here?
I think let these next few months play out and see how things go and go from there. I think it's too early to make that prediction. That's just my opinion.
That's smart.
It's going to be intense.
That's
I cannot
smart.
wait
Stock purchasing,
for Revolution.
that's smart.
It's going to be lit. Cannot wait. We're going to be having, I'm going to make, you know what I'm making, Davison?
Please tell me you're going to make little, like, are you going to make little charts where we can say who's going to win and then bet money? Because that's what I want to do.
Well, you know, Jake and Lauren, actually, they had a fantasy wrestling federation that I didn't know. I had heard whispers about, but I think we're going to have to bring this up tomorrow.
I think we need to bring it up right now. This. What are you talking about?
I'm talking about the beat goes on. And the beat goes on. Yeah, we got to figure out what's going on with that and if that's still a thing and if we can get down on that.
Do you mean an actual, like, you make up your own wrestler to get into this fed, or what do you mean?
No, like they
oh, like fantasy football?
Like, yeah, like fantasy almost. Like if they make predictions or they can choose certain. I don't know how it works. We got to ask them about it.
I totally want to do that. Yeah,
that sounds
awesome.
Fucking awesome.
Yeah.
So we'll have to figure it out tonight. I'm making vegan and dairy free 7-layer bean dip.
You're amazing.
Yeah.
I have lactose intolerance, Mr. Wolfe. I don't know if that's the thing runs into you or not, but
perfection. I don't have any problems.
Must be nice.
You just don't eat red meat.
Yeah, you just don't have time for it. Is really what it comes down to.
I don't have time for lactose intolerance.
That Rogan diet.
All right, well, now we're going to scoot right into the newest segment. And now it's time for Pro Wrestling Deep Cut Story Time with Davison Sarai.
Pull up a chair, kiddies. It's time for Story Time with Davison.
I didn't even have my cocoa.
Well,
I got cold tea.
Mr. Wolfe, I want to ask for your indulgence.
Yes.
Each show, I take a time out to tell a funny old story from wrestling lore. You said earlier you've heard of a gentleman named Antonio Inoki.
Yes, I have.
Yeah. Mark, I'm sure you know who Antonio Inoki is.
Yeah.
Do either of you realize that Vince talked about the Dallas WrestleMania as, I think, breaking the all-time, like, attendance records?
Yeah.
Do you realize that Antonio Inoki put on 2 wrestling shows in the early 80s in North Korea that drew like 150,000 and 190,000
Holy
people?
shit.
How do you pack that many people into an arena?
I've never been to North Korea. I can't begin to tell you. I mean,
wow.
Here's what I know is he did them both against Ric Flair. And so when Flair would go and do his big global tours, right? Mm-hmm. If he went to Puerto Rico, for example, he's going to wrestle Carlos Colon.
Yeah.
If he goes to Mexico, he's probably going to wrestle Mascaras. I can't remember if they intersected with their time periods, but probably.
Yeah.
He went over there and he wrestled Inoki. Inoki also fought against Muhammad Ali
Wow.
in the 70s in a really kind of strange, like, precursor to MMA match.
Yeah.
It's not worth watching. It's him getting on his back and trying to do like some groundwork.
Yeah.
And Ali trying to punch him, and it doesn't work that way.
Right.
Now that had already occurred though, so Inoki was starting to get a bit of a reputation as, you know, holding down that half of the planet as like the guy. A little bit of a history lesson here. 1941. There's a young man. He's born in Yugoslavia.
Yugoslavia.
Oh, I already misspoke. He was a young man in Yugoslavia in 1941. He was born in Yugoslavia. The country was invaded by Poland and Hungary. This would have been during World War II. And a whole lot of people were displaced, either captured or worse. A lot of people got away. This young man spent many years in an internment / like relocation camp from Yugoslavia. And for many, many years, he eventually relocated to Montreal, Quebec, Canada. He started a young career as a strongman, doing weird kind of tricks and challenges in the streets of his hometown, pulling buses, pulling trains, with ropes. This is not Inoki, by the way. This is the other gentleman who's in the story. He started to build up a bit of a reputation as this kind of weird, strong guy. I don't know, kind of a celebrity, kind of a weirdo. Eventually, that kind of guy becomes a pro wrestler, obviously, right? So Stu Hart gets him, pulls him into Calgary, teaches him how to wrestle. The man finally gets a professional wrestling name. He's known as the Great Antonio, or Le Grand Antonio, in French.
Yeah.
He wrestled there for a very, very long time. And he was one of those kind of prototypical old big guys, 6'4", 6'5", probably in that 400, 450 pound range. Didn't look like he'd ever touched a weight or anything in his entire life, just big and strong, right? He wrestled for many, many years. I'm going to say decades. And he became a kind of a weird celebrity in Montreal. So again, he's out doing these weird strength contests. He was building up a reputation for himself in his hometown as this almost like superhuman being, the Great Antonio. After many, many, many years of being more than a little bit of a monster in various capacities in different feds, he makes his way over to Japan. He does some tours. Now, Inoki had been trained by a man who a lot of wrestlers know, but a lot of people don't remember the name of. Rico, God, I didn't write it down. I have to look it up. I'm so terrible right now. I think it was like Rico Shan. But anyway, the guy who trained Inoki. This guy had come over and wrestled that gentleman a bunch of times, and then Inoki was rising up. It was time to call in the monster. So here comes the story. We have a man who had already set 2 world records for pulling a bus X amount of feet and pulling train cars X amount of feet with these ropes. And now he's made his way over to Japan, and now he's going to wrestle the great Antonio Inoki. The match was maybe 5 minutes long. Now, Mark, you said you'd not seen this match.
Correct.
Okay. So picture it. We've got Antonio Inoki, and I've heard him described as looking somewhere between the gentleman from Hawaii Five-0
Yes.
and kind of like standard Hollywood good looks, right?
Yes, yes.
We've got him in the ring, chiseled and handsome as he is, against this giant, kind of hairy...
Kind of looks like a hobbit, except he's a monster.
Yeah.
And a beast.
Like there was that movie called Troll Hunter that came out a handful of years ago. Do you remember that one?
Yes.
Kind of looked like a character from that. For some reason, he shows up to this particular match in a pair of like yellow banana peel sweatpants or windbreakers or something.
This is starting to look familiar.
They didn't fit him. They're too big somehow.
Right.
So he like rolled down the waistbands or like duct taped it, used a rope, something. Like you could tell it was like a homemade belt on these. He doesn't have a waist, so he had to do something to hold him up. And he was wearing these giant, weird combat boots that look like they had been drugged from the ground from 300 years ago, like 5 sizes too big, just like tongues flapping out.
Yeah.
He's going around the ring when it starts. And the crowd, Japanese crowds, they love their big Americans to come over as the monsters, Vader, et cetera. This guy, now you remember the Gypsy Joe video we watched?
Yeah.
Remember when Gypsy Joe came out and he did the no-cell walk?
Yeah,
and New Jack's trying to kill him, he just keeps no-cell and tries to kill him, no-cell. This guy's version of the no-cell was every time he got hit, he would lean back and like spread his arms and just
punch his gut,
double punch himself,
like King Hippo from Mike Tyson's knockout for Nintendo.
Just like that.
That's hilarious.
Except it looked like this thing was made of nothing but beer and like literal kegs of beer and kegs,
like liquid cheese.
Punching himself in this giant gut. So we got Inoki coming over and trying to be like, how do I topple this big mountain of a man? Kind of punches him, kicks him. No sell. I'm not selling for that shit. I'm gonna punch myself in the gut.
Right.
And the crowd's like, oh. Inoki thinks about it. He rubs his Hollywood chin. How am I going to do this? Comes over, punches him again. No sell. Bah! Double keg punch. Right? This goes on for a few minutes, including, there's a pace to a match. You got to pace this thing. This guy's not even, he's not even pacing. He's just like walking straight ahead like some kind of starved zombie. Inoki's like trying to reset and sell to the crowd. Like, what am I going to do here? The guy's not giving him space for that.
Right.
Just coming, grabbing him, putting these big clumsy headlocks. You see Inoki trying to like figure out some way to like make this interesting.
Yeah, right.
He's not going to let it be interesting. He's going to stick your head in his armpit. Keeps doing it over and over. 3 minutes into the match, Inoki gets pressed into the ropes. The great Antonio has him bent over at the waist. and he delivers 4, and I mean throbbing shots to the back of his neck. These massive forearms. I mean, you can hear him smack from across the whole building, right? On the 3rd one, he moved up past his back, kind of onto like the middle of his neck and almost the base of his head. And I mean, wham! Nailed him. The 4th one, you see Inoki put his arm up behind his head to catch that one.
Yeah.
And apparently he wasn't satisfied with the velocity of that 4th one, because now he's done selling. He stands up and he looks this guy in his face for like a split second. And you see Inoki's eyes like, are you fucking serious right now? He gives him this quick look.
Yeah.
And he must have seen that the other dude wasn't going to move, because he immediately flies into action. And he slapped the shit out of the great Antonio's face.
Oh my God.
He smacked him so hard that the guy like recoiled. He waited. He's still not going to come back at him. So he smacks him a few more times, like. And I'm wondering to myself as a wrestling fan, like, okay, those are open-handed strikes.
Yeah.
Those could be slaps. Those could be whatever. The guy's got a big head full of dirty, like, kind of shit-locked hair at this point. He could just be smacking him in the hair, not hurting him.
Right.
Well, this dude attempts to no-sell these things now. And just like it happened with Gypsy Joe, we're not having it. So Inoki grabs him by the leg and he takes him down. Smacks him on the back a few times. Just trying to teach him a lesson.
Yeah.
This guy stands up and starts coming after him again. This is about 10 seconds before the end of the match.
Yeah.
Inoki takes him down, stomps on the back of his head,
Oh my God.
kicks him in his face. The guy tries to get up. He kicks him in his face again, harder. He ends up kicking him 12 times. I watched the video a few
my
times,
God.
rewinding it. The guy crawled to the ropes. He just started stomping the back of his head, just grinding it into the ground. And I'm still wondering, like, I don't know. Is this really happening? Is this not happening?
Yeah.
The dude rolls over, and his face is just blood. He's wearing the mask, not the crimson mask. He obviously busted him with either a shot to the head or a kick or both.
Oh yeah, probably broke his nose.
This was the last match of this dude's career. He never
Darn near almost killed him.
never wrestled again. He
Good
returned
Lord.
to Montreal, Quebec, Canada, a broken man, still a bit of a local celebrity. And apparently for another 20 years or so, he could be seen occasionally on a local talk show. He was still setting up these weird strength challenges and stuff all over his city to be like, he just needed to be famous or something.
Yeah.
He let his hair grow out to such a degree that he just matted both sides into these giant like shit locks, right?
Yeah.
Word had it, he'd even use duct tape and stuff to like help form them into these giant ropes. He strung a bunch of like metal hoops and things into these things specifically so that when he went to do a test of strength, he would just use his hair. So they would like clip on a rope from a car or a truck
Yeah.
and just clip it to one of his big dookie locks. And he would drag these things around with these big giant ropes of hair that he'd built. I saw a picture of him in what at the time was apparently the world's biggest rocking chair
Yeah.
that he had built, 14 feet by 14 feet. This giant man looked like a baby in this thing. Just like one weird eccentric story after the next, after the next, after the next. Right down to the fact where when he finally passed, I think he was in his 50s or 60s, he was a known guy in his little hometown.
Yeah.
He didn't have a phone at his place. People thought he was homeless. He went to the local Dunkin' Donuts to get his messages. And they knew to keep his messages for him.
Yeah.
His hygiene was so bad, they wouldn't even let him in anymore. So people would just come out and meet him on the street
Oh my gosh.
with this info. He continued to do these challenges, and then one day he just passes, right?
Yeah.
When he passes, word gets out, and all of a sudden, like 3,000 people from Montreal come out to this huge funeral. They did like crowdsourcing. They funded this funeral for this guy.
Jeez.
And they had never given him the time of day other than to watch these little passing stories of him on various news articles and what have you. All of a sudden, everybody came out and they're like, wow, this guy was an actual celebrity and, you know, a great man here. A local person even wrote a child's story, like a book that got published
Jeez.
about this man and his amazing feats of strength. He died in squalor, alone. Basically spent all of his time on like a park bench that got commemorated to him. It's got his name on it now. And his best known moment in life, aside from pulling buses, marriage, world's greatest, biggest rocking chair, you know what I mean, pulled trains.
Yeah.
He's known for getting his head kicked in by Antonio Inoki after 4 stiff shots to the back of the neck and deciding no sell to the wrong motherfucker on the wrong night. And that's story time.
Fantastic. Thanks. Wonderful. Oh my God.
Oh, you.
Poor dude.
I'm telling
I
you,
think
man.
I have seen clips of that before.
There's a really...
It's hard to watch.
It really is. Yeah.
It's hard
as soon
to watch.
as I saw the mustard yellow pants, I was like, oh my God.
Now, if you want
Yeah.
to make it easier to watch, find the version where the comedian Bill Burr presents it, and he does his own
that's
commentary.
where I heard it from. I knew somebody was narrating it, and I couldn't remember. Yeah,
That's where I was actually introduced to it, and then I did my own research. So
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm looking into it actually, and this just adds another element of weirdness to it. After his death, apparently discovered among his belongings, he carried every scrap of paper that had ever been written about him over the years, including news clippings from all over the world in garbage bags.
Yeah.
Wow.
He was a total eccentric. If he had been diagnosed, I'm willing to bet you, I'm a therapist, he was probably schizotypal. Schizoaffective. Think about Kramer from Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Pretty normal-ish, but like out there,
Yeah.
attention-grabbing dress behavior, etc.
Yeah.
I think this poor dude was undiagnosed mentally. I mean, you see
Yeah, oh,
more
yeah.
than a couple of videos of him.
Yeah.
That really sells it for me. Yeah, he was not doing
That's
well.
wild. That's an insane story.
Yeah.
You keep topping yourself every single week. Fantastic.
Well, it's,
I want to dabble in the a little bit of the backstory of our special guest this evening, Derek Wolfe, because you've got a lot of happenings within IPW here in Kalamazoo as well. But we don't know too much about your wrestling background. How long have you been wrestling?
Gosh, I've been wrestling for about 2.5 years now. Not very long.
Really?
Not very long. No, I'm only 28 years old. I say only, that's actually old for the wrestling world. But I'm 28 years old. I actually got into training a little later on than most, about 26 when I started training. I graduated from college at Arizona State. Okay. I spent some time in the military. I went through the ROTC program out there. And then I served as a second lieutenant in the military for a little bit doing border patrol on the Mexican and Arizona border.
Okay.
So I did that before I had a medical discharge. And I decided to come back to Michigan for a little bit. This was before I had my property in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Yeah.
Came back to Michigan and started running, not running, but getting into management programs in some businesses around the Grand Rapids area.
Okay.
And doing so, I took my spare time and got into wrestling training. It had always been something that I wanted to do growing up.
Yeah.
It's, I fell in love with it when I started watching it. And I felt like I was a charismatic person, and I could always draw a crowd. I could keep people entertained when I was talking to them, and it's something that I thought I would do really well. The problem that I was having at the time is I couldn't find anybody locally to where I was that did training that was reputable, at least.
No doubt.
So that was the struggle. I was a huge fan. I used to go to all the shows. And because I did so well in business, I was well off. I was able to attend and sit ringside and travel to like Chicago and Detroit and just drive around the Midwest at the time, going to all the WWE shows.
Yeah.
And I actually went to a show in Grand Rapids where I was talking to another fan who arrived early at the arena as I did, and he happened to know someone who trained locally out of the Kalamazoo area. Mm-hmm. And I lived in Grand Rapids at the time, so that kind of worked out well for me. It was a little bit of a drive, but nothing too terrible. I didn't know he was around, because when you do research on wrestling training in Michigan, you get the well-known places like the House of Truth and some others.
Yeah.
This individual did training, but he didn't actually have a school. He kind of trained on a case-by-case basis. So I reached out to him, and this ended up being Josh Raymond, who wrestles for IPW, as most people on the podcast, listening to the podcast know. So I reached out to Josh, met with him, and I started training with him. And I did that for about a year. And I had my first wrestling match ever for IPW, in a small town just outside of Kalamazoo, Goblins, actually, at the high school there. This was about 2.5 years ago, when I wrestled Jimmy Shelwin, your last guest on this podcast. He was the first person I ever wrestled, but I didn't wrestle as Derek Wolfe. I still wasn't versed enough to be able to do a lot of moves. So I chose to take a different approach, and I wrestled as Doink the Clown.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah, my first match is Doink the Clown. And I wrestled against against Jimmy Shawin, and we had a good little match where I pinned him and went over really well. And I had been wrestling a little. I had like 3 or 4 matches after that also as Doink the Clown against Jeff King and Jack Verville, who are also West Michigan wrestlers.
How'd you get Vince to sign off on that?
I haven't talked to Vince yet. He hasn't reached out to Derek Wolfe. He doesn't know what he's missing.
I think that's really impressive that your lawyers are more powerful than Vince McMahon's, but sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's okay. You see, I don't have a need to go to WWE. WWE needs me. If they want me, they can reach out to me. They haven't reached out to me.
I mean, I can see the intimidation factor, just the nervousness of be like, man, I want to reach out to this guy, but how do I contact?
Oh yeah, I'm sure Vince is shaking in his boots anytime people put my name in front of him. So
that's a lot.
So I wrestled for IPW for a little bit as Doink the Clown before becoming a little more versed and finally breaking into my character as Derek Wolfe. Wrestled around Michigan for a little while. I did XICW Proving Ground last year. I've wrestled at IWA Mid-South with Ian Rotten. I did some training down at the Black and Brave Wrestling Academy for a little bit. But I wrestled around before kind of settling into IPW as my home.
Yeah.
Which is where you see me on a monthly basis now in Kalamazoo.
Absolutely.
So got to training with Josh, and during my training, I worked alongside Zac, who just happens to be, Zac Ibiza, that is, who just happens to be my opponent for this coming month's show.
Yeah, hard luck March 14th at the Y Bar in Kalamazoo.
That is correct. So I trained with Zac for a little bit, and it's kind of interesting because Zac and I come from 2 different backgrounds. I've always been, and I hate to say this, but I've always came from a well-off background. I've been pretty well off growing up, and continue that obviously into my lifestyle that I have now.
Well, you're primed for success.
Of course.
You're born into success, and you carry on the torch.
Of course. But Zac kind of comes from a different world. But going through the training, we ended up being best friends. I mean, working together on every day, and you just kind of develop a bond in wrestling that you can't really gain anywhere else. And it's so weird because Zac is the kind of person that, had we not met in a wrestling ring, I probably would never be friends with him outside of this industry. But because of what wrestling does to people, it brought us together as friends.
I don't blame you. I'm not friends with him either.
Well, we've been tag team partners. I'm not going to comment on that. Been tag team partners. We've been on opposite sides of the ring from each other. He's won some matches. I've won some matches. But there's been some hot blood brewing here these past couple months, and
there's been a lot happening. I mean, you went up against Felix Morio with he gained a questionable win. I wasn't too sure about the positioning of that steel beam. I always thought it was a little convenient that was also placed.
I think that's
right next to the ring post.
Yeah.
But last month you took the victory over Felix, and a successful execution of your skills.
Thank you.
And and then you look at someone like Zac Ibiza, who's really been climbing the ladder in IPW, and he had a phenomenal opportunity against Aaron Orion at Valor. Orion took him down, retaining the Michiana Championship.
It's a great match.
Now, the way I'm kind of looking at things, it was a great match, but the way I'm looking at things...
It was a great match. Did you see my match?
Oh, yeah.
It was a great match.
Well, I mean, yours was better, but his was great.
Right.
Well, yeah, obviously. Sorry, I thought
and the
that
big
was
difference
implied.
is...
Okay, just remember there's a difference between greatness and excellence.
Well, and there was only one of the 2 people who were actually successful in their match.
That is correct.
So again, you have to bring in the success factor. Now, going into this match with Zac Ibiza, one would think a victory over Zac Ibiza puts you in line for a title shot.
Why are you putting Zac so high up on the totem pole?
Well,
he lost.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
He had a title
lost,
match.
He had
but
a title
he lost.
match.
Does he have a title after that match? No, because he lost.
Well, I mean,
Right.
So,
but if he was given a title shot...
I don't know about titles. All I know is that there is an individual who used to be my friend and decided to turn his back on me and focus on wrestling when I decided to take some time off for 6 months and focus on business and becoming successful.
that's what happened. I've been dying to find out what that heat was actually about.
Last time I wrestled with Zac was almost a year ago to the day, actually, and it was for IPW in Grand Rapids, Michigan. When we had a little show at the Masonic Lodge out there, where I beat Zac, but I beat him because he chose to take the easy way out. Okay? rather than taking the shots, he decided to put the referee in his way, and the referee got involved. And again, he took the easy way out, which cost him the victory. I won, but by me winning, he didn't take the ass kicking that was coming to him.
Well, and that kind of seems a little, like he didn't believe enough in himself to get a clean victory, Elvia. So
you can say whatever you want. He just chickened out. He didn't want to face me.
I mean,
one-on-one.
As Mr. Wolfe just said, though, I mean, Ibiza may be on the verge of greatness. I don't see much excellence there right now.
That's correct. She gets it. Davison gets it.
She
gets it. There's a difference between greatness and excellence.
I've been trying to tell Franchise and T this for weeks. I don't want to listen. I want to join the school of success, Mr. Wolfe. I want to be a success.
We will talk after the show next month.
I'm so happy.
There is a difference between greatness and excellence, and you can look at greatness in any of the other matches that are on the card next month, but if you want to see excellence, you need to watch any match that Derek Wolfe is in. Doesn't matter who he's facing, doesn't matter if they're a winner, if they're a loser, if they're a title holder or not. It's going to be excellence, which is what you're going to get next month. Because Zach and I have some unfinished business. As I said, we used to be best friends, and we kind of drifted apart when I decided to focus on my business and my industries and become successful while he was out, partying and wrestling and doing what he did. Apparently that cost us a friendship, and he's got some things to answer for, and we'll dig a little deeper into that at the show next month. Yeah,
sounds like there's going to be some heavy addressing of that. And, again, that's... That's the thing. He's also making some enemies. I don't know if I would consider you an enemy of his. You guys obviously have some unfinished business, but a man of Ray Taurus's stature has really been just putting the working on Zac Ibiza ever since last year when he put him out with a rib injury for 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And, Taurus got himself eliminated, disqualified in the tag match with him. And then again, the last 2 months, Taurus has run out after Ibiza's match and really put a stomping on his ass.
I wonder why Taurus keeps doing that. Is there any motivation for this, or is it just random attacks?
I've been wondering that, and I was hoping you might give us some insight. I'm not making any
secret motive or what is going on exactly, but I got a feeling that we are heading towards an answer to that.
I think, was there an implication that Ray Taurus might be on a payroll?
I'm not saying anything right now. All I'm saying is money is a hell of a thing, and it can get you a lot of things that you want.
It's a hell of a drug.
It is. It is, especially when you're busy focusing on other parts of your life.
Hey, it's less that you got to do. You toss some money at somebody, get it done.
That's right.
And if you know the right people, things get done.
That's right. But Davison and Franchise, if you guys want answers, you're going to have to come out next month.
Well, we're going to.
I'm sure there's going to be answers. Matter of fact, you can bank on that. Yeah. But you need to be there next month if you want to find out what's going to happen.
I'd also heard there was a possibility that if they ask nicely or offer you the right amount of money, were you on the verge of offering stock tips? Did I hear that?
I can offer stock tips. I can't promise success. You have to know what to do with it. I can tell you what direction to go and how to invest, but...
Is it true that you made $250,000 in one night?
It is. Tesla? I mean, did you listen to my promo last month?
Well, I mean,
that was all true. That was the highest that Tesla stock has ever rose in the course of 2 days.
How did you have inside people, or did you just have a nose for stock?
Honestly, I've always loved Tesla. I always have. And I've always invested in stocks.
Yeah.
And the trading goes back and forth between multiple different companies that I have investments in. That particular month, I decided to invest higher in Tesla, and it worked out. So, and now with Wolfe Industries growing and continuing to grow, I actually have a meeting with Mr. Musk in a couple weeks here. So we're going to see what kind of collaborations we can do between Tesla, SpaceX, and Wolfe Industries. So we'll see how that goes.
I want one of those Terminator trucks. So if you can put in a good word for me, that'd be awesome.
I hear the windows don't hold up the greatest, but that's something that Wolfe Industries can help them out with.
How many of you guys' podcast featured Derek Wolfe? That's right. That's what I thought. 0.
Look at us being a successful podcast tonight.
Hey,
just to be clear, I'm only here because Terry told me I had to be. But
well, hey, either way, we appreciate you, living up. And again, it's hard to deny the fact of what you're all about, especially when you step through the curtains. Not only who you are behind the scenes, but when you hit the ring, there's no doubt that you're going to get a successful matchup, and not only that, but a successful execution of skills in the match, win or loss. You're trying to help people out. You're trying to evolve their mindsets, and it's a tough job out there.
It is, especially when they're the tiny brains of the cesspool that is Kalamazoo, Michigan, can only think inside this tiny little box that allows them to comprehend certain things. I'm reading magazines like the Wall Street Journal, and I'm watching Bulls and Bears on Fox News every day. I'm sure they're just looking at their Playboy magazines and scrolling through Facebook when they could be investing and earning money. But
I think that's an amazing point you just made. You have to be willing. You got to dare to dream, franchise.
Yeah.
You got to have a dream. You got to chase that dream. You got to do anything you can, crawl, scratch through the mud. You got to get that dream.
I'm here interviewing Derek Wolfe.
Living the dream.
Living the dream. That's
Living
right.
lavish.
You're welcome. You're
Thank you.
welcome. You
Thank
are
you.
welcome.
Highly, highly appreciated that you joined us on the show.
Absolutely.
Can I ask one last question?
Yeah.
And I'm sorry to go back to Zac Ibiza. I could tell it's not terribly interesting to you right now. So you used to be friends.
Yes.
And you've seen the way Ray Taurus has been mistreating this gentleman. Mm-hmm. Do you have any feelings about that?
Like I said before, money is a hell of a thing. But if you truly want answers, come out next month. I'm not going to comment any further on it.
I think it's pretty interesting.
I'm satisfied.
Yeah.
I don't need to ask any more questions.
Yeah. Like I said, I think he had
just know that I'm a very busy individual. I can't be in 10 different places at once. But if there's something that I want done, I will find a way to make it happen. Even if I can't physically be somewhere, I will find a way to make whatever it is that I need to happen.
I love nothing more than a well-dressed, well-spoken man who has zero problem telling people exactly what their problem is. I just got to... I'm supposed to be an impartial media person. Franchise, I've apologized I don't know how many times on commentary. I cannot bury my fanhood of Derek.
Well, I'm not gonna try to.
I'm used to it. I'm used to it by now. Everybody loves Derek Wolfe. There's no denying it. I mean, let's be honest. Are they really coming to IPW to see the likes of Zac Ibiza or Aaron O'Ryan, or are they coming to see me?
I mean, I know where I'm going.
It's not just you.
You're probably
There's
right.
no question. I mean, there's a reason Terry, the IPW commissioner, pays me what he pays me to fly me in. I mean, he flies me in and he pays me for the match, but there's a reason he pays me what he pays me each night I come out and wrestle for him. So,
well, it seems like there's two kinds of people there: Derek Wolfe fans and people who are afraid to admit that they're Derek Wolfe fans. It's starting to see there's a big following, and
it's only going to grow.
With big names comes big money, and I don't think. I mean, I'm kind of putting the puzzle pieces together, and I'm thinking, well, when I was there at High Stakes, there's a pretty good amount of people there. The most people they've ever seen. You came back at Valor, there was even more people there. Yeah,
doubled in attendance.
I mean,
is there a reason for that?
True story.
I think so.
I think there's a lot of people that heard the possibility of your amazing stock success and came out with the hopes that they might be able to absorb at least a little bit of greatness.
Well, if they're lucky, maybe I can give some tips before I have my match next month. We'll see. It depends on how I feel.
You'll have to get a VIP ticket.
That's
in order
right.
to do that. And you'll get front row. If you get a VIP ticket to the show, you also get front row. You get meet and greet with, just legends like Derek Wolfe over here. And, maybe a couple of the other ancillary wrestlers who are going to be there as well. Not on the same level, but hey, you know what? You get what you paid for right there.
You're right. And, you do have to pay a little bit more, but the value that you get out of that VIP ticket, it's unquestionable.
Yeah.
I mean, the knowledge that you get from talking to me even just for 30 seconds.
Oh, I'm
It's a return on your investment right there.
It's a successful purchase is what that is.
Indeed. That's you just got to make the successful purchase. Get the VIP ticket. You get the front row seat to IPW Hard Luck. That's Saturday, March 14th. At the Y Bar in Kalamazoo. It's going to be so much fun. Derek Wolfe going one-on-one with Zac Ibiza. You're also going to see Isaiah Bronner from DTA. He may be the only Death Threat Army member there. We'll have to wait and see. Josh Raymond's going to be there, of course. We may even see the likes of the IPW Tag Team Champions gracefully chosen as well. The
Those
closer
guys-
we get,
So impressive. I mean, everybody's impressive, and we had said it before, but seeing those guys at the last show, gracefully chosen with Truth Martini, I mean, there's a lot of talent in this company, and present company excluded, obviously.
Greatness versus excellence.
that's all you need.
Those
That's all you need
those
to
guys
know.
are showing signs of greatness.
Right.
Let's put it that way.
When you come to IPW Hard Luck, you're going to see a lot of greatness, but
Just a little bit of excellence.
a little bit of excellence. But hey, it's just like cayenne pepper. That excellence goes a long way. So come on out. IPW Hard Luck, that's Saturday, March 14th. It's going to be lit. Like I said, you get your tickets right now on Facebook. You can get them through, you can click the link actually in this blog for 1049 The Edge. We're going to hook it up. We're going to take care of you guys. Davison and I are the new commentary team for IPW, a brand that we've just fallen in love with over the last few months. It's unlike any other show. And really, this is the only show that caters to Southwest Michigan. Really, this in West Michigan in general. And if things keep going the way they're going, I do believe, we're going to start stemming out from Kalamazoo.
I think you're going to need a bigger venue in Kalamazoo. I mean, like Mr. Wolfe said, he shows up, the crowd doubles. They're at capacity last time. And
It's going to grow exponentially.
Indeed.
Absolutely. And like Davison said, it's going to need to be a bigger venue to hold. As a matter of fact, I'm thinking, if we continue to run, we should start running in Scottsdale, Arizona too.
That's not a bad idea.
I need to talk to the commissioner, Terry, about that.
What would I or somebody like me have to do to catch a ride to Scottsdale, Arizona?
You have to be excellence. Are you that?
I want to be. Badly.
There's a difference between wanting and actually being.
I need help.
Sure do. Come talk to Derek Wolfe before the match.
That's all I want. I'm going to do it. Let's set that up before you leave tonight, if you don't mind.
We'll chat after the show.
Perfect.
Rad. Awesome. Well, we will be back next week. T should be rejoining us. T should be joining us. Like I said, he's in Arugula dealing with the salad fiends, and he'll be back next week. And we may have another guest joining us. We'll see. We'll in the next couple of weeks, we'll get this rolling, and we'll keep you up to date on all the IPW happenings. Derek, thanks for hanging out with us today. It was our pleasure, as well as
Sure was.
Double our pleasure.
Absolutely. Excellent having you.
Yes, absolutely.
Davison franchise, thank you so much. It was truly an honor to be here.
Awesome. Another radical show, but I think we can easily say this is our very
That was
first.
totally tubular, dude.
Totally tubular and the most successful show we've ever had.
Bank on it.
I've never felt more successful in my life.
That's what happens when the presence of Derek Wolfe graces your podcast. You're welcome.
We are welcome. All right, we'll holler at you next week. Toodles!
You guys are awesome. I fucking love it. That's great.